Another way to make a circular round start is to start with a little bit longer tail than I usually do, because we're going to use that to sew back up the circular start. Then wrap around my thumb, right about my cuticle, touch the tip of my needle, slide underneath both strands, drop the loop, cross and pull. Now I'm going to be using the Mammen stitch for this demonstration. Which at this stage could either be Korgen or Mammen because I'm not making any connection stitches. And the base row is the same. Notice I need to rotate my needle a little bit to get my yarn in the right place. And I'm going to pull that down slightly so that I can catch everything on the pad of my thumb. Touch the tip of my thumb, slide out through my loop, over my loop, under my thumb loop and the following thread, pinch, drop, pull. Notice I'm resetting the needle to perpendicular to my thumb and parallel with my cuticle so that my new thumb loop will form where I want it to. I'm going to point away from me and extend my arm and pull down my thumb towards my chest so that I can form a new thumb loop and it doesn't want to pop off because your thread wants to follow where your needle goes. And I have two loops now. So I have the last loop that I pulled off my thumb loop, and I have this one loop that goes under the loop around my thumb and not under the other side of the loop around my thumb. And touch the tip of my needle to my thumb, slide out through the two loops, over the two loops, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. That's what I consider the first full stitch, but that is, of course, the third one in. 1, 2, and 3, because those will be the connection stitches that we connect into on our way back. Okay, touch tip of my needle out through the last two only, just the last two. So this is the one that doesn't go under anything. Number 2 is the one that goes under my thumb loop, but not anything else before it goes up to the top. And number 3 goes under my thumb loop and the other side of the thumb loop. Okay, just the last two. So touch the tip of my thumb, slide out through the two, over the two, under the cross, pinch, drop, and pull. And that may, oh, see my yarn is twisting up, so I need to, because of the spiral that the stitch is, so I need to remember to rotate my needle a couple times to help take care of that. So that makes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm going to make about 12 to 16 stitches here. Touch the tip of my thumb, out through the last two, over the last two, under the cross, pinch, drop, and pull. And yes, you can just pull your thumb out as part of that drop function. Rotate my needle, touch the tip of my thumb, slide out through the loops, over the loops, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. You'll notice I'm resetting my needle again underneath my cuticle because I want the needle to come there. And I've rotated my needle once to make sure that I don't get anything too tight. 1, 2, touch tip of my thumb, slide out through the two, over the two, under the cross, pinch, drop, and pull. I have trouble counting because I do 1, 3, 2, 3, many. So I need to double check my count here. I've got 1. These are crossed funny because I wrapped to the right of my tail instead of the left, but it'll be fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7. Okay, touch the tip of my needle. Out through the last two loops, over the last two loops, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull, rotate my needle, pull down my thumb so that it forms a new thumb loop without flopping off. Touch the tip of my thumb, out through the last two, over them, to the cross. Rotate the needle slightly. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Getting there? Not quite there yet. All right, continue. It should have been 10. This will be 11. And this will be 12. And then we can check and see if that's going to be sufficient. Now, nalbinding is generally worked from the left to the right. You'll see this is curling up, but I'm going to, if I was going back down this straight, I would be coming down this edge here. Note the edge that is physically touching my thumb is the edge, not the right-hand side of the braid. It's the left-hand side of the braid. So you can give it a little bit of a pull to actually get everything to lay nice and neat in there. Don't want to pull too hard up here or you pull these loops out of place. Down here, you can give it a good yank. Also helps settle the thing because I don't want to grab these loops. I want to make sure that I'm in the edge loops there. And I can kind of straighten it out and I can pull. But the trick that I want to do is I'm going to be curling this. I want to make sure that I have enough to make a circle that's going to stay relatively flat and not like curve up or anything if I get this all curled in there. And 12 looks like it's going to do pretty well. So having done that, I'm going to make sure that my last loops here are not too big. So I'm going to pull them a little bit tighter. I need to pull this one as well, which means I need that to come in and this to come out, this to come back in again, and that to go back out. There we go. I'm going to take my needle off of my working thread for a moment, or you can use a separate needle for this purpose. And I'm going to thread the tail of my needle, tail my thread onto my needle. And I'm going to take it and actually go through my connection stitches down here. And I'm going to grab 1 and 2 and 3. And I may take my thumb out of the way so that I can get to them all. And 4, but I'm just going to use the looping and just kind of loop them all onto the needle here. This is where a nice little thin needle is very helpful. Okay, got all of those edge stitches on there. I'm going to pull my tail through. Yeah, thin needle. This is what I get for trying to use a nice pretty needle instead of actually using my usual number 13 tapestry needle. All right, so I have pulled that through. And remember, I want this to curve, so I'm going to tell it to curve. But basically what I've done is given myself a loop as if I had sewn around a loop, but I didn't. Then get my tail off there, reset my yarn on my needle. Put my nalbinding back on my thumb, and this is how I find my thumb loop. I could have gone through that as part of the circle as well, but I did not. Okay, so my following thread is going to need to fall towards me, and it can't fall away at this point. It's falling towards me. So this is because the particular stitch I'm doing is not a plaited edge. This is a regular edge. So we have a Z roped edge here. If we're looking at it this way, we have an S roped edge. Okay, so we have an S roped edge, and I need to have the thread fall towards me, which gives me this loop here is my last loop, and I get that back on my thumb. All right, and I pulled that all nice and tight, and I still have a little bit I'm going to have to get around the end here. 12 does not seem to have gotten me quite all the way around. My thumb loop is distinctly not pointing towards center. So I'm going to need to grab a few stitches along here to get out far enough to get around the edge. So I'm going to start by actually grabbing inside that circle for 1. I'm going to turn up and take my 2. It doesn't matter exactly where. You just don't want them all in one place or they make a hole. Make sure this falls to the right and in front towards you. Form that new loop. Okay, then for my next one, I'm going to grab this loop that's sitting out here by itself. Thumb side in. Now it is quite normal for having grabbed one of the lower inner loops that my inner loops get very tight. So remember, this one that doesn't cover anything is loop number 1. The one that goes underneath your thumb loop, but then up to the outer edge is 2. And that one in there that goes under your thumb loop and under the next before it gets to the outer edge, that's 3, and you don't want that one. So thumb side out through those 2, over them, under the cross, pinch, drop, and pull. We're going to have to do several in the same place here to make an increase, but I don't want too many in exactly the same spot. So I'm going to grab a little deeper in here so that I can get those 2. Touch my thumb, thumb side out through the 2 loops, over the 2 loops, under the cross, pinch, drop, and pull. Remembering to rotate my needle so that I keep my yarn counterbalanced from the twist. Now I can put one more in here. I'll just follow the thumb loop through that. Up just the last 2. Over under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. Now I've got 2 in there. So I'm going to go up and grab this one by itself. Touch tip my thumb out through the 2, over the 2, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. We're almost there. So that's 3 more. That was 12 and plus 3, that's 15. I had mentioned it might be up to 16 to make it in this particular yarn, but it's worth checking. And then you also want to make sure you re-cinch down your center a little. Now, if I hold this at the center and I come out to where I am at the join, you can see in this straight line that my thumb loop is not anywhere near parallel to that line, which means I definitely need some increases in here. And for this first row, you are absolutely going to have at least an increase every single stitch. And then as you go further out, that will slow down. So I had put 1 stitch there, so we're going to put a second one in there because if I move on, I've got no room. So thumb side out through the 2, over the 2, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. Now I'm going to move on to my next one. So Mammen stitch is made up of 1 new connection stitch and 1 old connection stitch. It is an F2 connection, 1 new and 1 old. Okay, touch the tip, thumb side out through the 2, over the 2, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. Yeah, it's trying to sneak off. I didn't get my rotations right. Also, don't want too many of them because that can also cause a problem. Now, here's the trick. For my next F2, I would take 1 new and 1 old, so the newest of the 2 that I took the last time. The problem is that if I just keep doing new connection stitches, I'm going to get a cylinder that's that sized. And that isn't what I'm looking for. I'm trying to make a flat round. So I need to do increases at least every stitch. I am severely in need of increases. I can definitely tell that. So I may need more than just every stitch. And I did 2 in that one already. I could move to this one, but I can actually cheat and stick a couple more in here by just moving to this one as F1 to the old one there. And thumb side out through the 2, over the 2, under the cross. And by doing that, I can make it so that I can get a few more increases in here without necessarily building any extra holes, because any more than 2 stitches in the same connection stitch can give you a larger hole. Okay, now on to new and old. Thumb side out, through the 2, over the 2, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. Now we're getting closer. Definitely still need an increase in there though, so we'll put one there. Side out, through the 2, over the 2, under the cross, pinch, drop, pull. Okay, I'm going to take just the newest old, the F1 connection. And I'm still going to put one in there too, because I'm still off from center. All right, getting closer. Kind of give it some woodgy to make it settle down and settle in, but we're definitely getting closer. All right, one new, one old. Definitely need another one. Same spot. I just followed my thumb loop through the same hole. Okay. Center, getting a lot closer. So I think I'm gonna do one in the F1 connection between my 2 F2s, but I think I'm only gonna do the one there. And then I'm gonna move on to my F2 and decide if I need 2 of them in the F2. And the answer to that is yes, because it's still really early. And one in the F1. Now that's not a new F1, that's still technically the old F1, but it's there a little bit. And we kind of move things around a little bit, and it's close. I think I will just do the 2 in the F2. So that's my newest F2. Sorry for sticking my hand in the way there. And I'm going to repeat that. So I'm just going to follow my thumb loop through my F2. So I've got 1 and 2. Those are the 2 old ones. Touch the tip of my thumb, slide out through my 2 loops, over them and under the cross. Resettle everything. Looking pretty good. All right. One between. By the time I get to the next row, I will not be needing to do the one between, or I don't need to do 2 in my F2s. I may just shift to F2, the F1 of that old F2, a new F2, and then just the old, just to get through. It depends on how I feel like it and how I like how it's sitting, because the 2 makes a difference in your connections and what it looks like. So we're still doing pretty good. We put one here and then in the old, in between my F2s. I'll take my next F2 and I will probably put 2 in there. Let's see what we get. No, I think I'll just go to 1 in the F1. Oh, my second one is trying to hide under there for me. Did you see how it was kind of hiding in here? But I can tell that this is not my second, because that one goes under 2 of them. So I have to dig out my second one, the one that only goes under my thumb loop before it hits the edge. And then the F2, one new, one old. really think I want 2 of them in that one. I'm going to follow that thumb loop through both of my F2s, loop connection stitch there. And then I will move on to just the old between the 2 new ones. This is the beginning, and sometimes I need more than just 2 increases every stitch. Sometimes I still need 3. See, because I feel like I actually need another increase right there. Maybe if I move it around a little bit. No, I still do. I'm going to stick one there. I've gotten myself a little bit behind. Now, what I don't want to find myself in a position, see, now I'm almost straight. I don't want to find myself in a position where my thumb loop has gone past the line from the center to my connection stitch, because if it's gone past, then I'm going to be making a wavy instead of a flat circle. I will have too many increases, and I don't want to get into that position. So a little bit behind, even if it's not parallel, is perfectly fine. Between the 2. Now you can count these out and you can make them evenly spaced along the Nalbinding, or you can do like I do, which is check the angles and see which way it tells you it needs to go. Counting them out makes for a technically smoother round. You don't end up with flat spaces at some point, but this works generally quite nicely. I am still, however, briefly going to be doing 1 in the F2, and I'm doing the between as well. So far, that's still getting me an increase every row, every stitch. Another row or so, about when we get over here, we may find ourselves not having to do that every time, but getting close. The further you go out, the fewer increases you have to do. In general, you're going to be doing about the same number of increases as went in, so somewhere between 12 and 16 in this case. But as I don't actually count them, I don't have a firm number for you. And I've just about run out of yarn here. Can't make another stitch. So I'll stop this video here and we will discuss yarn connections in a different video.